this Keys to the Kingdom series, and the focus really this week is making the commitment. And when I started sitting with the word commitment, it also reminded me of a couple of other words, and I'll share those with you as we go along today. But as I was meditating on this and sitting with it, I started to sort of get one of my downloads. I start my day at about 4 or 4:30 each morning. And it's really a lovely time, actually. There's nobody but the cat's awake. And actually, Butters is wrapped up in his basket, snoring. So the only noise that I hear until I put my earbuds in is his consistent snoring. But it is consistent, I will say that. It's kind of its own little om there. Maybe he is an om. He's one of our omies. I know. Stay around. It doesn't get any better. So... But 4:30 in the morning, and that's my time. And I get into my own rhythm, my own meditation. And after I come out of a quiet time and sitting in meditation and affirmation, I just really allow myself to just be open. And so until about 6 o'clock, from 4 or 4:30 till about 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when I start to prepare and get everything ready for the meditation that I join you all on at Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at least at 6:30 online. And this last week, this is what really just happened in my soul. And it was like I was visited. I had a visitation. And I've always said to you, if I start to get a little woo-woo, well, I warned you. So a fair warning, little woo-woo here, that I felt a visitation of a beautiful presence. It kind of reminded me of the scripture in the Bible that says we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. They are witnessing to, every time we're receptive to that same source, they're witnessing that, and they are basically the choir that sings it. They want to uphold you in that moment, and I felt very much upheld, and this is what came forward. And actually in my notes, this is supposed to come toward the end, but as I was sitting over there, something in me said, switch it. I want to switch it up. And I was like, thanks for not changing the entire sermon. I appreciate that. It's just part. It just said, don't mess with me. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. Oh boy, this is getting gooder. All right. So this was the line that I heard. I heard it very vibrantly, and it was, everything I need supplied. Now, I had been working with that while I'm looking at Keys to the Kingdom, so it could have just as easily been my own mind talking to me. I know yours may not talk to you as much as mine does, but mine talks incessantly. It is always trying to get across some kind of a message to me, especially in regards to information I receive. It really wants me to process it in a particular way. But I've become aware of that, and that's the magic. It's really the magic of meditation. So this opening line was, everything I need supplied. And then it said, you, and I'm talking to you, already are everything. Now, my mind did not want to receive that because it automatically started telling me what I wasn't. When you hear these words, you are everything, what happens in your mind? Well, mine was kind of tripping. Like, yeah, but. It started with the yeah, but. You don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have this. And it went on to say, the universe isn't something outside of you, it is you. Now see, I normally say the universe is not outside of you, it is in you. These words were specific. It says it is you. And then it went on to share with me, when you stop trying to get what you want, and you realize you already are what you want, the universe itself cannot help but reflect that very same thing back to you. And then it went on to share, the universe is like a mirror. If you smile at it, it will smile at you. If you frown at it, it will frown at you. Now, I've heard that before, but this is where it got me. It said the mirror is neutral. It is not ever judging you. It's not even deciding what to reflect to you. It simply reflects what you are. Can you hear that? It said the creative power of the divine is neutral. You decide how you'll use it or not. The universe is not something outside of you. It is you expressing itself in your unique form. So be what you want Instead of saying someday I'll be happy, someday I'll be wealthy, someday I'll be healthy, someday I'll be successful, someday I'll be prosperous, say I am that right now, because everything that the universe is within me, and it is me. So I make that direct declaration right now. I'm going to ask you to join me if you feel so courageous and brave. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am prosperous. I am happy. I am joy. I am success. I am all aspects of well-being. Now, does that feel good to say that? Well, some would say, well, yeah, I mean, it feels good, but we don't need to be here for a pep talk. Tell us how. One of the hows is practicing that on a regular basis. In fact, every time your mind tells you the opposite, start cueing yourself through self-hypnosis to literally contradict what the mind says. Because the mind is always going to keep you in limitation, because the mind is scared of anything else. It needs you, come on y'all, it needs you to be in a habit. Because if you break the habit of the mind, it no longer has power. I want to say break the habit of being you. If you want a different life, don't wait for the government to do it. You say, well, in some ways they feel like they're giving me a different life right now, but if you really want things to change, stop putting your trust in a candidate or a campaign or a king or a queen or a preacher or a priest or a shaman or anyone else. Begin to really stir up that gift that's within you. And here it is, folks. I love this. This juices me like crazy, and I don't know if if it doesn't do anything for you, it does it for me. This is better than a cold Guinness. Or whatever it is you like. The same energy that runs through the stars in the sky runs through you. The same intelligence that orchestrates the seasons is in you. Can you hear that? The same divine mind that makes the sun light up is in you right now. You see, what I'm talking about today is if we will make a habit out of this, you will create a habitat that's fully aware of this every single day of your life. You are not a lowly sinner. You are not just a human being. You are not just a this or a that. You are the divine principle, source, presence in human form right here, right now, waiting for you to recognize it. Now, some would say, you say this to us every week. I know it takes us hundreds of times to actually start living it. Because we go back out into the world and the world tells you everything you're not. You go back to your family members who are religious and they tell you you need to get saved. You need to stop being a part of that cult. Or whatever it is they say to you. But you need nothing. Say that, I need nothing. Everything I have, everything I need is already within me right now. So, check this out. I like this. This is yummy. You are not just a drop in the vast ocean. You are the vast ocean in a drop known as you. See, when we say you're just a drop in the ocean, you look at the ocean and you go, well, boy. But when I say the vast ocean, you are the vast ocean in a drop known as you. It is waiting for you to ignite it. See, the potentiality that's in you is like the potential in dynamite. If you don't light the fuse, nothing happens. It's just a stick. This is why the Genesis account says that God created humankind out of the dust of the ground. But until God breathed life, it didn't become a living soul. See, some of y'all need to realize your example, the only reason we have these things in writing is because it's calling us to do the very same thing. As St. Paul said, to be imitators of your father or your source or your mother as dear children. Somebody say this with a little bit of swag. I think I'm just going to imitate God. Einstein said at the end of his life, he said, all I want to know is how to think like God thinks. Quite possibly, arguably, one of the most amazing minds that we have known in recent history, Einstein. And he said after he boiled it all down, quantum physics discovered, he gave to us a different way to measure life force. After all of that, he said, all I want to know is how to think like God thinks. You know why God can't lie? Because if God says it, it is. I mean, I'm just saying, if God found something hard and he said soft, it would be automatically, so he can't lie. Because some folks would say, that was a lie, because, wait a minute, that's soft now. Y'all hear what I'm saying? This is the force that dwells within you. So you're not just a drop in the vast ocean. You are the vast ocean in a drop. The universe lacks nothing, and neither do you. Say that. The universe lacks nothing. Neither do I. Come on, one more time. Pat yourself on the heart. Wake that heart chakra up. The universe lacks nothing. Neither do I. Now, this brings me to commitment, making a decision. If you believe that, and it's more than just mental assent, like you actually want to achieve the active outpicturing of what I've just talked about, the question is, how committed are you to it? Will you decide to literally exercise the source being your provision in everyday life? Do you actually believe that God is your source? Do you believe that? Or do you believe that it's Walmart? Or do you believe that it's Amazon? Or do you believe that it's wherever you work? Because sometimes we mistake those places where we exchange our time for money for our source. That is not your source. That's an invention of humanity through which to move the circulation of money to you. That is just one way. Look at somebody and tell them, I'm getting rich because there's more than one way for me to get it. Now some folks would say, that's crazy, but let me tell you something. You know what's crazy? Believing that poverty is natural. You know what's crazy? Continuing to believe that we just have to work our entire life till we hopefully build up a little bit of a nest egg so that we can get comfortable to take one good trip. That's crazy. It is insane for us to use our minds and our bodies every single day to make the 1% more and more wealthy while the other 99% get less and less. That's insane. And see, we keep waiting for government officials who are benefiting from this to fix it for us. Oh, I just said a mouthful. I'm gonna talk to y'all over here. I said, we keep waiting for governmental officials that benefit from us believing in this limitation. We keep waiting for them to change it. We're doing what John Mayer said, I'm waiting on the world to change. Well, I'm not waiting on the world to change. I've decided to change the world. We're not here to save the world. We're here to change the world. But I got to make the commitment. I have to make the decision. I have to stop allowing myself to be constantly inundated by the inflammation of the world and brought back into believing in the limitation that's being brought my way. What we're experiencing right now is the symptom of our disease. And I ask you today, are you going to continue to see the symptom of the disease and panic about it? Or are you going to heal this disease and bring our true nature to the forefront? I'm asking for a few folks who are willing to stare in the face of some of the scariest times you've ever seen in your life and say, I don't believe you're real, because I have met the one that's real. And the one that's real is the God in me, the hope of glory. Okay, then. That leads me to the master key. Somebody say master key. The master key is recognizing once and for all that God is my source. As the young folks would say, period. I was looking back for confirmation from Gavin, but he's hiding behind the computer screen. He's like, Dad. He said the next thing he's going to do is whipping Nene, and that's been old for a long time. I'm saying the master key is to absolutely once and for all deliberately practice every day of my life as if I know within every fiber of my being that God is my source. I don't put my trust in the economy of this world. I have entrusted and invested my energy in the economy of heaven, and it's never gone bankrupt, and it never will. So I looked up the word commitment, and you know what it means? Deliberate and intentional choice to stick to something. See, here's where we derail ourselves a lot of times. We don't see it switch overnight, and we stop. Because we want to microwave everything. How many remember those crock pot meals your mom used to cook? We drove 40 miles one way to a church my dad pastored. Okay, all right, anyway. 40 miles one way. My mom would put that food in the crock pot, the slow cooker, they called it. She'd put that in the crock pot, and by the time we got back home from church, because y'all think I go long here. Y'all ain't never been to the Church of God of Sparta, Georgia. And it was not the Church of God, that's too proper. It's Church of God, Church of God, Church of God. Get it right, Church of God. And we would drive back. By the time we got back in the afternoon, before we walked in the house, we could smell the fragrance of that crock pot cooking. Anybody know what I'm talking about? But most of us are not willing to wait around on that fragrance. We're not willing to plant the seed and then let the harvest come. Most of us, if it doesn't happen right now in this very moment, if I don't see the manifestation of what I've planted, I just stop. But commitment is deliberate and intentional choice to stick to something. In other words, that means I'm going to be faithful. That means I'm choosing to build a pattern. I'm choosing a sense of loyalty, a sense of responsibility rather than reactivity. See, reactivity is to stop when you don't see it immediately. Responsibility is to stay with it because you are actually drawing a blueprint for the life that you want. And it takes a little time sometimes for the art to come together, one stroke at a time. So I'm asking for commitment. In a world that's on demand, I'm asking for commitment. But more than that, I'm suggesting that you commit to believing that the universe is you, the power of God is you, and start to utilize it to create the world that you want. Here's the thing, you are the gift. Stop waiting for a gift to arrive. You are the gift. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you are the gift. Let me explain. The world was not given to you. You were given to the world. Can you hear me? The world was not given to you. You were given to the world. You were sent here to be on purpose and on time for this world. Therefore, that means you are a giver of life. Pat yourself on the chest and say, I'm a giver of life. This is why you're seeing a lot of the things that you're saying, because when you give life to the words, they plant and they come to life. They start to manifest in the world. This is why affirmation is so important, because what I'm saying, I'm going to eventually see. See, what you think about, you bring about, and the way you bring it about is by saying it and by acting on it. You are a gift. I love this. You are a creator. Not just one who's been created. I'm not just creation. I am a creator. See, when I start to commit to that, I'll begin to step into the natural flow of abundance. I'll start stepping into the natural flow of the benefits that come with being a resource of the source. See, I have chosen to practice the life of a sorcerer. See, when you say that where I come from, they start getting ready with the Earl and, and cast the devil out and plead the blood. The word sorcerer, you know what a sorcerer really is? One who uses the power of source. That's all a sorcerer is. One who mines and excavates source power. The reason they used to call them witches and sorcerers and made it a bad thing is because they needed a reason. Oh, y'all gonna make me get on my soapbox right here. You think this has just been going on in the United States for the last few years, just since you've been in the United States? If you look back over his story, predominantly his, because they didn't want her story to be told, because they was afraid there might be a conception they couldn't deal with. The reason they called them witches and warlocks and sorcerers, especially those who were bringing healing, because there's no money in healing. There's money in keeping you just this side of death. I'm talking to some folks right up in here, and that's why the poison that's in your water is putting your pineal gland to sleep so that you can't see through your third eye clearly. That's why your food is so pumped full of steroids and antibiotics so that it can keep you subtly sick. All right, gone to meddling now. You are the gift. And see, this awareness, this conscious awareness, folks, side note, what is happening right now in this planet is a great awakening like none of us have ever seen in our lifetime. And if things had have been different, I'm gonna step on a little, y'all just have to love me anyway, because you said love is who I am. You shouldn't have repeated it if you didn't mean it. If things had have gone a different way, we would have gone to sleep. Oh, you'd have felt comfortable, but we would have gone to sleep. You see, now is the appointed time to shift the consciousness of this planet. Now is the time to stare into the face of the systems that have been built to keep you held down and say, I will no longer live under that oppression and that depression. I won't do it. Back to the subject, John. All right. Did I say that aloud? This voice is in my head, I don't know. So you are the gift, and you're the one who brings meaning and purpose to your life. I heard this all my life, Iman. Every time I went through a struggle, somebody would get in my face and say, don't cry, God's got a better plan. Just trust that God's gonna fix it. Anybody else? How many of us have done that to folks too? Because we don't want to sit with you while you're struggling. We just want to kind of get you out of the way. So we tell you, God's got a better plan. Just keep on praying, baby. Keep on praying. I got somewhere to go. That is bypassing. God didn't draw a blueprint for your life. I don't believe that God drew a blueprint for your life. I believe God gave you the power yourself to take that neutral power of the universe and draw your own blueprint. The reason the page is blank is because you're waiting for somebody else to write the story. You're waiting for God to do it. God has already done what God's gonna do. Now you take the power that you've been given, you create the life that you want because you bring meaning and you bring purpose to life. I have people all the time ask me, what is the meaning of life? And I say, nothing. And they chin starts quivering, they're like, excuse me? I need more medication after talking to you. I said, no, hold on a second. I'm saying, what a beautiful thing. Life is waiting for you to give meaning to it. It's waiting for you to take that power and give meaning to it. You are the gift. You are the one who brings purpose to this life. You're the one who brings meaning to this life. Well, hallelujah. So when I was thinking about commitment, it brought me to the power of decision. You've all heard before, once you decide, everything begins to change. Once you decide, things start lining up. But y'all know me, I'm a word nerd. And so immediately this sentence came into my mind. Your decision will determine your precision. And that precision will open up all of the source provisions for your life. Precision is the quality or the condition or the fact of being exact and being accurate. So when we're talking about commitment, we're saying we need to accurately determine the life that we want to live. Make a commitment to tithe your time, your talent, and your treasure because you know that God is your source. And literally all you're doing is taking the energy that is in your talent, your treasure, and your time, and you're giving it back into the universe and keeping it in circulation. When you do that, you cause it to come back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Why does it multiply? Because it was all meant to circulate. But if you don't release it into circulation, you don't give it a chance to go and invest in all of the places it was supposed to go so that it could grow and come back to you 100-fold. If you want to multiply your life, go ahead and begin to make that decision today. The source is my supply, is my provision. The power of decision. Malachi, a prophet in Israel, said he had a conversation with God. And following that conversation with God, he felt the need to give. Now, we've all associated the word tithe with money, but we're putting a little twist on it during this season. How many of you ever been triggered by the word tithe? If you've heard the word tithe, if you haven't heard the word tithe, you might feel like lucky you. But in the churches that we grew up in, the tithe was preached all of the time. But this is how they preached it. When it came time for the offering, they'd say, it's time for you to tithe. That means if you made $100 this week, you're supposed to give $10 to the church. If you don't give $10 to the church, not only are you not going to be blessed in that 10%, but the rest of the 90% is going to be cursed. Serious. That's what they would say. The other 90 is going to be cursed. And so they would utilize fear to get us to give. I don't want to utilize fear to get you to give, because if you give in fear, you're going to circulate fear with what you let go of. I'm talking about you are giving from a place where you know that it can't ever run out. You're giving from a place that you know when you give, you just make room for more to come, because you understand that energy is meant to be circulated, not pent up, because if you pent it up, it will explode. Make the decision, and that will determine your precision. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that the word of God is a double-edged sword. I say it's a poor translation, because then it goes on to say that it is so sharp that it can separate the marrow from the bone. So I would say that the word of God is a scalpel, giving us the ability to have precision, accuracy in what it is we need to remove from our life and what it is we need to bring into our life. When you make a decision, everything in the universe begins to surround you and make it possible. Here's what I believe. The only person that you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. And the only life you are destined to have is the life you decide to live. This is why it says, choose you this day who you will serve. Will you continue to be a slave to the mind that wants to keep you limited, or will you break free from the mind into the limitless possibilities? Because the only life you're destined to have is the life you decide to have. That is the power of decision. Here's what I think about decision. I see decision as a sharp knife. And that decision's sharp knife slices through uncertainty. It slices through clarity. It brings about a sense of understanding purpose. But indecision is a dull blade. It struggles to cut. It creates chaos, and it leaves behind a mess and a lot of unresolved consequences. So when you don't make decision, you're chopping it up. But when you make decisions, your precision comes into view, and then you're able to absolutely determine accurate steps forward, a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your pathway. Embrace Embrace the power of decisive action. It's the kingdom and queendom key for forging forward. Then, real quick, I'll move through this. Abundance is my nature. We say it every week here, but how many of us believe that that abundance is natural? In other words, if somebody walked up to you today and they handed you $100,000, would you be surprised? Seriously, would you be surprised? Why? Abundance is natural. Are you surprised when you receive a breath that there's air? Come on, I'm talking to somebody now. Why are we surprised when we feel good? Why are we surprised when we get blessed materially? Why are we surprised? We should know, and I don't mean you're not in gratitude for it, but I will not be shocked when somebody writes $1 million check to First Unity Spiritual Campus. I won't be shocked by it. I'll just say, make sure that you put it in the bank securely and quickly. But I'm not going to be shocked by it, because if you have a vision and you believe that you are abundance and that it's natural for you to prosper, you should be welcoming those good gifts. See, this is the problem. We have trained ourselves to believe that limitation is normal and that limitation is natural, but it is not. You're a limitless being, and abundance is your nature. Shout that out. Abundance is my nature. See, St. Paul was trying to get the church at Ephesus to understand this when he was teaching them, and he was telling them to declare something that they didn't already have in their possession materially. He was inviting them into this confession, and here's an affirmation for you. Now to the one, the source, who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all that I can even ask or imagine, according to God's power. Is that what he said? No. He said, according to that power that works in us. He made it personal. He said, to the one, the kingdom of God that is within you, to the one who is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can ask or think, according to the power that is working in me. That power is in you, and it's coming out in inventions. It's coming out in interesting ways to create in the world. It's birthing something fresh from your mind. People may call you crazy, but most of the time, the people who have made the biggest changes in our world were called crazy first. Now, I'm not saying Steve Jobs was a great person, but can I point him out as an example of the people who walked away from him saying it's impossible, and all he saw in the word impossible was I'm possible? And he kept moving forward. Now, I'm not saying that it's all a blessing. Please follow what I'm saying, though. This watch right here, at one point in time, clocks took up entire walls. And somebody had the idea that they could put it on an arm. And someone else said it's impossible. Are y'all with me? See, allow yourself to embrace the abundance that is natural to you, and these ideas will come. The inventions will come. I'm in the room right now with some people who are in the process of inventing something that's going to change the rest of this world. I'm also in the room with some people who have already done it, but you got disappointed because people turned you away and said it will never work, but you know it will work. And I'm telling you, go out this week and the next week and tithe some of your time to put that in motion in spite of what someone else tells you. Decide that abundance is your nature. Now, I'm moving along because it's late. Somebody say, thank you, Jesus. Everything I need is already within me. The universe lacks nothing, and neither do I. Now, let's talk about this word tithe. Because the word is from the Old English that it's actually the English word teogotha. Teogotha, and it meant tenth, a tenth. And one of the reasons that it was brought up, especially all the way back in Malachi, because see, the Bible was translated into English, but it was not originally written in English. And that word in Malachi, where it talks about a tenth or the tithe, bring all the tithe into the storehouse so that there may be food in the Father's house, all of the scriptures that we heard growing up. The word tithe there was actually a Hebrew word, and it definitely meant a tenth. It meant a tenth of your portion. In other words, if you had 100 sheep, you brought one to the household of God, a tenth. Or if you had 100, you brought 10. Excuse me, my math is really on today. You brought You brought 10 of those guys up in there. So they were talking about a tenth. They were talking about tithing. But let me tell you something. I know that churches for generations have misused the process of money and talking about it. This is what I think, me personally. I, for a long time, have been working with the triggers around money, especially as a minister. Because for me, what matters to me more than this place having lights and air conditioning is for you to have lights and air conditioning in your life. I care too much about you. I'm not talking about the bottom line here. In fact, during most board meetings, when I'm sitting with the financials, I'm not really looking at the numbers as much as I'm holding my hand on it and saying, we have enough, we have enough, we have enough, we have enough, we have enough. We have everything we need, we have everything we need. Because that's the part of me that I enjoy being. That one that says we have enough, we have everything we need. Here's what I'm wanting out of the keys to the kingdom. Not a fat bank account just for First Unity. What I want out of the keys to the kingdom time together is for you to upgrade your life and for you to become so blessed that you can't help but give because you don't have room enough for it. That's what I want. Because if I was doing this for money, I'd go do something else. I'm doing this because of the calling, because I know that this is what we're here and purpose to do. So the word tithe, it simply means a tenth. And it was intended that they would give a 10% to the place from where they got their nutrition, their spiritual nutrition. But this is what I wrote down. Let's see if this lands with you. Number one, tithing, period, whether it's time, talent, or treasure, tithing is a signal to the universe that your portal is open for more to flow to you and through you. So it's a signal. It's just sending up a sign. Number two, tithing is a recognition of our divinely creative essence. It's a recognition that that truth is within me. It is flowing through me, and so I allow it to circulate through me to others. God is always giving. And because I'm God kind of individual, because I'm of the same substance, I am choosing to give. I want to be a part of that flow. Number three, tithing should be done from a higher vibration of gratitude, not obligation. If you do it from an obligation vibration, it's going to circulate obligation to wherever it goes. But I'm doing this from gratitude because I know that the source always brings to me supply. And number four, tithing is a spiritual and universal law. It's simply sowing and reaping. It's giving and receiving. It's action and reaction. It's inhaling and exhaling. It is seed time and harvest. This is a part of the process of life. Giving to me has become just as easy as breathing in and breathing out, because I know that if I don't breathe out, I won't have room to breathe in. It's the law of circulation. What keeps air clear? Circulating it. What keeps your bank accounts clear? Circulating it. What keeps your heart arteries clear? Circulation. You only have a heart attack when the circulation gets cramped. Are you with me? All right. Number five, Jesus did not teach against tithing. In fact, he encouraged us to tithe without neglecting the care of the poor. So in other words, to tithe and to care for others. He didn't teach against tithing. And tithing is also, in many ways, paying the bill. And what I mean by that is when we come to a community, we want to be a part of community, and we see all of the mechanics that are working within the community. When we give into it, we're saying that I actually respect this vision and this space where I receive, and I'm willing to keep this thing going. I'm willing to put the gas in the tank since you built the car and we're all traveling somewhere together. That's what I'm doing when I am giving of my tithes and giving of my offerings. Now here is something that I believe can be transformative. Here it is. I'm going to go toward tithing your time. And I don't mean to meddle in your personal affairs. But many of us want things to change in our life, but we're unwilling to make any changes. And let's just say that you're up for 16 hours out of a day. Now, I know that probably a lot of you in here don't sleep 8 hours a night, so maybe you're up longer. But let's just say it was 16. And let's say that you tithed your time. We'll go to an hour and a half. It's easier, 90 minutes. 90 minutes. You gave 90 minutes every day. Let's say you tithed your time. Now, I know where some of us are going. Right now, your mind is already going, okay, well, there's that soup kitchen I've been saying I was going to volunteer at. There's that homeless shelter. There's that women's shelter. Yeah, I could give more time to my church. I could do all of that. That's what, folks, I want to ask you to do something different than anything that's come to your mind so far. And here it is. I'm going to ask you to tithe time. Break it up like this. In the morning, 45 minutes. Take 15 minutes in the morning to stretch, to breathe, yoga, something that is good for your physical body. Take 15 minutes and meditate. It's good for the mind and the soul. And then take 15 minutes to get into affirmations. Use them from YouTube, write them down and declare them over your own life. 45 minutes in the morning. Take that tithed time without a device, without the TV on. Give to your mental, spiritual, and physical health first thing in the morning every day. And before you go to bed at night, because you still owe 45 more minutes, before you go to bed at night, shut that phone off 45 minutes before you go to sleep. Shut it off. And do that in reverse, or the same, either one. Stretch, breathing exercises, maybe lift some weights. You could do some push-ups, whatever for your physical body. And then get into affirmations. Affirm what it is you want to think about as you sleep. Instead of going back through your day and thinking about the things that didn't work well for you, the things you didn't like, affirm what it is you do like. And in that final 15 minutes, right before you go off to bed, meditation. Instead of thinking of tithing your time to someone else or something else, how about you give back to yourself something for once? If that does not change your life, quit. What do you have to lose? You say, well, it's time. I know. And instead of giving it to TikTok or Instagram, or YouTube Shorts. Come on. Back to, because listen, how many of you have ever turned your phone on and 30 minutes later you still you've already seen 14,000 videos back to back? Anybody? I'm going to ask you if you could raise your hand if you want to, but it's a rhetorical question. How many of you have gotten lost in the social media world? I'm saying get up every single day. Make the determination. Make the commitment. That's just one thing. We could talk about money. We could talk about other, but I'll tell you this. If you will get the tithing of your time back into your spiritual and your mental health practice, you'll give money automatically because you will lose the fear of limitation. You'll get rid of all of the fears of the world around us, and you'll transcend into the being of light that you've been called to be. Start there.